Alright, hello everybody, Albert here. So after your campaign has successfully passed the testing phase, which means that this is the campaign that is selling well and has positive ROI, the next step will need you to scale the campaign. So here is a scaling part 1 where I will talk about scaling up and scaling out. What I mean by scaling up is you increase the ad set daily budget. So let's say these are 4 interests which you put for testing in the beginning. After the campaign turns out earning you positive ROI, then you're gonna scale it by increasing the ads budget for a greater audience reach. Like you increase it to $10 or $20 or even $100 per day. But you don't just increase it from 5 to 100 directly. It might screw up your ads, which will result in high cost in advertising. And you might also risk to end up losing your money if you just scale by just increasing the budget without really calculating the performance of each interest. So I will show you the guideline here as to how to do it properly and will keep your ROI high as long as it can. Then after that, you will want to scale out. Scaling out means that you add new interests into your scaling process. So still remember when you are doing targeting that you note down the list of interests. This is where the list becomes handy. Besides these 4 interests that you are running, you will add other interests. Let's say this is interest 5, 6, 7 and so on. And then you test whether these interests here will perform well. If yes, then you scale up these interests using the same method of scaling up. And then if not, you kill it and then you find other interests. So here's the guideline that I've been using every time I'm going to scale a campaign. This is the method that I've been testing many times and has allowed me to scale my campaign to over 1,000 of sales. This is also the exact method that I use to scale the pilot campaign to over 20,000 sales. I'm sure this will also work for you if you follow the guideline here. In scaling, I stick to using PPE for all my campaigns since PPE is very powerful, especially if your niche is a very social one. I know there are methods out there that teach you using web conversion, but I've been using purely PPE and it has been working for me over and over again. Let's talk about a scaling up process. So scaling is the continuation of the testing phase where you put 4 interests in the beginning to test and they turn out to give you positive ROI. Then what you're gonna do is you increase your daily budget for those 4 ad sets. The way to increase it is to check the amount of sales that happen every day, and then you scale up and scale down accordingly, which depends on the number of sales per day. The rule is that you increase your ads budget by $10 on every 1 sale increase. So for example, $10 for 1 sale increase, $20 for 2 sales increase, $30 for 3 sale increase, and so on. So let me show you an example here. So let's say this is your 4 interests that you are running, and then the total sales for 25th April, for example, is 10, and for the second interest is 5, and this is 12, this is 7. All right, just for example. And then if the next day the interest one, the increase in the total sales reported is 12, and then for the second one is 9, 15, and 12. All right, so let's look at the interest one. There are 2 sales increase in the next day, which means that I would set the daily budget to $20 for the next day. Alright, so $20 that I put here is not the budget that I set for 26 April, but this means that this is the decision that I made on 26 April for the budget amount for 27 April. Then let's look at interest 2. There are 4 increase in sales, so I will set the next day budget to 40, and this is 3 increase in sales, 30, and this is 5 increase in sales. I put 50. So this is how I set the daily budget for each interest. Depends on the number of sales that happen on day-by-day basis. I find this to be giving better result than when you scale the bulk interest. So for example, if you are scaling bulk interest here and you set $100 for daily budget, you don't know which interest is actually performing well and which one isn't. I know there is a theory that Facebook will do its job in optimizing this for you, but I think by doing bulk interest, I don't have much control over the scaling process. But when I do single interest scaling, which means that I put each of them into a different ad set, I would scale each of them according to their own performance. So if interest 1 is converting very well, then I will put higher budget. But for interest 2 and 3, for example, if they're not converting as well as interest 1, then I won't put as high budget as I put it for interest 1. I will just put $10, for example. Depends on their sales. Now you see, if I total this up, it will also get $100, but the same $100, I have more control over what I'm doing. I will distribute the advertising budget accordingly, so it gives me the most optimal and the best possible result. As I said, the budget here will depends on their performance every day. If tomorrow, let's say, the interest here, let's say for the next day, for interest 1, the total sales on 27 April is 15, and this is 11, this is 19, and this is 16. All right, then I will adjust accordingly. So this is 3 increase, I'll set it at 30. This is 2 increase, so I will scale it back. I scale it down to 20, and this is 4. I set it to 40, and this is 4. I scale it down to 40. So you see, every day I will just adjust accordingly to the number of sales. If I need to scale up, then I scale up. But if there is decrease in sales in the next day, then I will scale it down. So my thinking is that if you do this every day, then averagely you will get the most optimal result. And then if what is the next day, there's no increase in sales. So if there's no increase in sales, you drop the daily budget to $5. So for example, if the next day the interest for the sales is also at $12, then you can put the budget to $5. But don't kill this interest here yet, because sometimes maybe it's Monday where people are busy or whatnot. If there is sales the next day, then you can scale it up again. But if there's no increase in sales for 3 consecutive days, then you can kill the interest here. So how does this method work? How do I decide on this rule? Or what is my thinking behind it? Some people might ask, so where is your profit? If for every sales happen, you put the same amount of money back to the ads. For example, we assume every shirt you sell, we earn you $10 profit. When you have 2 sales here, you earn $20, but you put those $20 back in the ads. And then the next day when you have 3 sales, you put back $30 again back into the ads. So people will ask, so where does your profit come from, right? So my decision is based on the following 2 principles. The first one is you assume $10 profit per shirt in your calculation, but the actual profit is $13. So I suggest you to set a profit of $13 from your t-shirt. But when you do calculation here, you are assuming your profit as $10, so that actually you have a $3 extra from every sales that happened here. So that is where your profit come from. And then the second is, when I decided on the system here, I thought, though PPE is very powerful, the problem with PPE is that it is difficult to measure the exact number of sales happen, because many of the sales will come from viral shares, and it is hard to track the virality. From my experience in doing PPE, for every sales reported by Facebook, there's always around 40% of real sales that is not tracked, and therefore it's not reported here. So when Facebook reports 15 sales, for example, maybe actually it is 20 in real sales. So the difference here between the reported sales and the real sales is where your profit come from. And I have tested this method by applying the scaling technique here, which is scaling up and down accordingly. I was able to maintain the ROI for a longer period of time compared to when I was scaling using bulk interest. So if you notice the number I use in my rules, they are based on multiples of 10s. It is for simplicity and easier calculation, so that you can make decision quickly. Because when you scale a campaign like the one I did with PieDay, I ended up having more than 500 ad sets, and there were 200 to 300 ad sets running at one time. So I need a system that can help me calculate easily. The next one is you set your maximum daily budget based on the audience size, which is $10 increase on every 10,000 audience increase. So for example, you set a maximum daily budget of $10 for a 10,000 audience interest, and $20 for 20,000 audience interest, and so on. So what I mean by this is that, for example, interest 1, the audience size is 20,000. And for interest 2, the audience size is 70,000. Let's say if this is the next day the sales is 19. Alright, so the day before is 12 sales and the next day is 15 sales, which means that you put $30 for the next day budget, right? But since the audience size is 20,000, which means that our maximum daily budget for this interest is $20, so I will not put 30, but I will adjust accordingly to the audience size, which is $20. And this is 70,000 here in audience size. Then there is a $10 increase in sales, so I should have put $100 for this, right? But since the audience size is 70,000, so the cap is $70. The reason I set the maximum daily budget based on the audience size is that if you set a too high budget for a small size interest, it will increase the frequency very fast and in turn will increase your CPE, your cost per engagement, in no time. So make sure you check the audience size when you're applying the scaling methods here. Then if your ad is starting to perform slowly, before you kill it, you might want to check which platform is converting better. So you can check it here on Facebook Ads Manage, and you can break down the ads into placement. Let's take this one example, watercolor painting. If we compare the desktop and mobile, there is 19 sales on desktop and 18 sales on mobile, and the amount spent for desktop is 137, which results in 19 sales, and for mobile 272 spent results in 18 sales. So from the number here, we can conclude that the ROI for the desktop is far better than the ROI on the mobile. So in this case, if the ad is starting to perform slowly, you can then turn this mobile ads to be off and just run the desktop going forward. So the way to do it is you click this to go to the ad set. Then you edit the targeting and placement, and you can change the placement here, whether you want to mobile only or desktop only. Alright, so after performing scaling up, next you need to scale out. You find some interest to test. When you were doing targeting, you have already collected a number of interests on hand, so you're gonna use this list. You're gonna take the interest from the list and use it for scaling. Remember to always put one interest per ad set, no matter how small the audience is. Even though it is as small as 8,000 audience, for example, still stick to creating one ad set for each interest. Then you test new interest with $5 budget. This is actually similar to what you do when you do the testing. So you check the sales after $20 spent for each ad set or each interest. If there's more than 2, then you can start scaling up. And if it is equal to or less than 2, you go to step B. Then you check the CPE for each interest. If it is less than 10 cents, then you maintain daily budget of $5. And you might want to check the comments and shares. So when you go to the Facebook ads report, you can add the columns here for comments and shares. Alright, so this is the number of comments, of shares and comments. Because even though there is no sales, but if the CP cost is very cheap and you find that there is a lot of comments means that maybe they will tag their friends. If there is a lot of shares, then you might want to let it run for a while. And if the CPE is more than $10, you set the ads budget back to $1. And for the next 1 or 2 days, you check whether there are sales from this interest. If the cost per engagement decreases, you can increase the budget back to $5 or $10 again. And if the CPE after 2 days is still high, then you kill the interest that you test. I suggest you to add 5 to 10 interests at one time. Don't add like 100 interests for the same time, because you have to control your cost. start with adding 10 interests when scaling out, decide which to scale and which to kill. Learn from these 10 interests here and know more about your niche. So then when you add another 10 new interests, you already know about your niche and you can make a better decision. Remember that besides United States, you can always sell your shirts to Europe and Australia. I've done this several times, and many times it can double the number of your total sales compared to if you only sell in the States. When the overall campaign's performance starting to drop, you can start lowering the budget for each interest. You know your ads performance is starting to drop if for the total amount of budgets you put for a day, you get the sales of the same amount or even less, which means that you're losing money. When this happens, you need to lower the budget of your ad sets to $5 each and kill the non-performing ad sets. If after doing this, your total ROI is still negative, then you can stop the whole campaign. So this is the system that I've been using and it's giving me results. Follow the guidelines here and surely you will get tremendous result as I have with my Pi Day shirt. Watch the video again if there is anything you don't understand. Alright, so see you in the next video.